Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Look, it's just us. I'll leave Catz explain why.
Yeah, I don't know why. If anybody is on Gen Panda's Discord server and you can get hold of Brooomie, I think he's called @Reasons now, or Tommy Hench on his YouTube channel, he's not appeared. You know, I put a video out on my Baldy Catz channel a couple of days ago about can I convince this flat earther that the earth isn't flat or something like that. And he replied and said, well, you can't convince me, and why are you picking on a girl? And, you never have me back onto debate. So we arranged it for this Wednesday, and he's not shown. So I don't know what we're going to do. I know Flatzoid is in the chat. Flatzoid, maybe you could come on and explain why you take videos from people like Red's Rhetoric and then deliberately edit out the evidence of curvature. Maybe you could do that. We'll see.
That sounds like a plan
I don't know,
me.
Creaky.
That sounds like a plan. So Flatzoid, if you want me to email you the link, just let us know and we will send it over.
So, what have you been up to, Mr. Blinder?
Nath all. Because I'm not, it's like being in jail. Especially with the amount of time I spend in this room. It's allegedly about the size of a prison cell, so no wonder it feels like I'm serving time. It's not fun at the moment, is it?
It's not fun at all. And, we were talking off air, obviously, that a lot of people a lot of the conspiracy theories kind of like slammers for saying that we've got to take the pandemic seriously and we've got to wear our masks and we've got to, socially distance. But that doesn't mean we're blind at all to the effect that the lockdowns have, or we're even saying that the way it's being handled is the way it should be handled, because it's horrible. It's damaging. A lot of businesses are going under. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. Is all I can say, because I wouldn't know what to do.
Whether you love or hate Boris, you wouldn't want to have his job, but I certainly wouldn't.
No.
Definitely not. I don't think there's any amount of money that can make up for everything he's having to deal with. And, like I say, it doesn't matter whether you like him or not. He's still a human being, and he's still he's got everybody in the country looking to him for guidance.
Well, that's it. And whatever he does, there just isn't a way where you can please everybody. There's no way at all you can please everybody whatsoever.
Exactly.
I'm just for the giggles of it going to time Flatzoid out until he either agrees to come on or, in his next post, explains why he deliberately misrepresents Red Rhetoric's footage. So you can have a quick time out there, buddy. Now, do we think Brooomie will show?
We can only hope. I've got the participants list open on the channel page as well, so I can see if he sort of comes in as a lurker, but he's not there yet.
No. So how do you do that? How can you see if someone comes on as a lurker? What is that?
Right, so you know where the chat window is in YouTube? At the top, but it says live chat?
Yeah.
On the three dots, the other side, click that and then click participants. It doesn't show everybody that's watching. It shows people, you can set up your YouTube account to not show who you're subscribed to, for example.
Yes. Yeah. So those who have the subscription public, it will.
Public subscriptions will be visible here. People who've got their subscriptions hidden won't be visible. Apparently.
Well, so there we go. And so we need somebody who is willing to come on and have a stab at a debate. If there is a flat earther out there who will do that, or we need someone to come on and have a chat with us. I guess about anything at this point. What do we think?
Well, I've been promising not promising. I've mentioned to Crafty Keeler about the possibility of coming on my channel because of what she does as a profession. I'm very interested to speak to her about the psychology behind what makes an adult who would seem to be otherwise intelligent think that the earth is flat or that space is fake. So I don't know if Keeler is available or if she's having a crafty watch while she's on break at work. But Keeler, if you do want to come on and chat with the two baldest men on YouTube, you're more than welcome. Just send me a message on Discord and I'll send you the linky doodle.
Again, I can grow it, mate. I am like, it's a choice. It's a lifestyle choice. I can grow it. Look.
Yeah, hey, listen, that's how it's that's how it started with me. It was I started shaving my head bald just because I thought it'd look cool, and then years later I thought I'm gonna grow my hair back. Sorry, Keela, send me a message on Discord and I'll get you the link straight away. I thought I'm going to grow my hair back. I don't want to be bald anymore. I'm not old enough to be bald. And I started growing it back. And it was like, I'm sure I used to have hair there. Why is there no hair there now when I've got these giant sort of pasties stuck to the side of my head? So by a cruel trick from Mother Nature, I wasn't bald when I shaved my head bald. And when I wanted to have hair, I was incapable. I was hairless.
The thing is, you were right. You were right at the very beginning. It is cool. So, like, you shaved your head to become cool, and then you've just stayed cool ever since.
But in this room, I haven't. But no, I just shaved my head because I thought it would look awesome. And
you do. Yeah, you were absolutely right. So no regrets, mate. No regrets. And the fact that you can't grow it back now just means that you're so cool that you can't become uncool. You're like, you can't even deliberately now not be cool.
The reason I've got a hat on tonight is because I haven't shaved my head for about 3 days. So it's not a good look.
Yeah,
I'm literally having a bad hair day, Catz. Like Keela.
She's in. Brilliant.
Yeah, she's in. Seek Truth, Speak Truth says real men go bald. I hope so.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
How are you, lads?
Overjoyed as always.
Ah, yes.
What you up to? You work incredibly hard, Crafty. You're not. Take it you're not at work now.
I am on holidays for the next week, which is a relief. It is a relief.
Nice.
So I'm trying to catch up with what I have to do for the channel. But other than that, I'm pretty chill. Spent half the day with a Critical Cripple on his channel watching the inauguration and stuff like that. So yeah, that was great.
Well, a lot of people
on what's gone on there, Keela. Have you got any that you'd care to share, or do you choose to remain?
I'm finishing off a series. I'm trying to get the whole series done before I release any, but I'm finishing off a series on the idea of the social contract, of what binds us together as a society. What's the unwritten rules that we don't talk about, but that everyone kind of knows. So that's one thing that because especially with the anti-maskers, the First Amendment auditors, stuff like that, Karens even, it all focuses on those unwritten rules of society that we don't really talk about, but are so detrimental. So that's one thing that I'm working on. I'm having a brainstorming session with Steaming Cup of Reason tomorrow about the next episode of Life on the Flip Side. So that's happening every Sunday. And then I have the Challenging Conspiracies. So I've just put up on my patrons a list of 3 different topics for them to choose which one is going to be the next Challenging Conspiracies. So that's fun.
So I'm sure you heard what I said when you were still in the side chat. So, based on sort of the work you do, have you got any insight as to, why do you think, as I said, a seemingly intelligent adult will say that they believe in the earth being flat?
I think there are 2 answers to that. First of all is the con men that we all know and love, the pose, who just like the attention, the accolades from morons. And the other side of that, which is what I'm trying to explain, is that people look to conspiracies to explain why everything else in their life doesn't make sense, or to explain why they don't have control over their own lives. So, for instance, there are some people who will turn to misogyny and blame women. There are some that will turn to racism and blame migrants. There are others who will blame society in general. And instead of trying to change that society, they just say it's kind of fatalistic, and then they, fall into the pitfall as well. If they could get away with this, then this must be true. Guilt by association kind of thing. So
Yeah.
if they could orchestrate, or if they could come back from a worldwide economic crisis, then of course it's a new world order. Of course the world is flat. Of course everything that they tell us is a lie. And everything that backs them up, it has to be a lie too. So I think there are two different avenues to it.
So do you think that there are some people that are just sort of, they're just gonna be conspiracy theorists? It's in them. It's built into them.
I don't think it's not built into anyone. It's built into everyone to ask questions. And as Jose JG, I think it's one of the only things that I actually agree with him. Skepticism is good. Asking questions is good. It's never a good idea to just accept something because someone says that this is the way it is.
Yeah.
Because that leads you down the kind of religious route in a way. But I think a lot of it comes from lack of control of the environment that you're in. You're more likely to desperately need outlandish answers if you have the less control that you have over your life. It's easier to blame the government. It's easier to blame big pharma for the things that are going wrong in the world, rather than either to blame yourself or to blame nature or society in general, and say, okay, well, how do we actually work to fix these things? What I find in conspiracy theorists, it's an unhealthy dose of fatalism. That, these are lying, but we can't prove that they're lying. We can't change that they're lying. We just have to point out that they're lying. So there is that fatalistic element.
So it's the same as the belief in the flat earth, and we can't prove it's flat. We can't prove those people are lying. We just know.
Well, when it comes to flat earth, I find flat earth particularly interesting because they refuse to believe in any scientific instrument that's not quote unquote natural.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding. So they don't believe in space flight. They don't believe in the ability to measure curve. They don't believe in the ability to measure rotation. And yet these are the same people that will get on a flight and get on an airplane that is not actually natural, quote unquote, and fly down to have a flat earth conference.
Yeah.
So they don't understand. I don't, it's not even that they don't understand. They reject the notion that something can be created by humans to verify what we see, what we observe.
It's a strange old characteristic, isn't it? Because, in a way, like you start off by saying they just know the earth is flat. They know something. Well, if I'm so confident in something, I might be really, really confident right now that, for example, my wife is in the living room watching telly. Okay. So now she might not be, but that's what I think. Right now, I think I'm 100% confident that's where she is. But if somebody proves to me otherwise, right? If somebody actually shows me proof, takes me down to the living room so I can have a look, or sets a webcam, right, that she's not there, then I'm going to accept, oh, right, I was wrong, she's not there. But to them, it doesn't. They start off with the proof, but when the evidence, they start off with the conviction, but when the evidence that they're wrong is presented to them, they don't want to look at it. That is also just, totally dismissible, isn't it?
Well, this is why I don't believe that, even though they call themselves scientists, that they're actually doing this research and all the rest of it. This is why I don't think they're scientists, because for science, you start off with an idea. You start off with an observation, something that you have noticed that needs an explanation. For conspiracy theorists, they start off with the conclusion and they work backwards. They fit everything to fit their conclusion. It's the complete opposite. It's actually what religious fundamentalists do. They come up with the conclusion first. There's a God, because something has to have been here to create all this for this to even happen. And then everything then slots into why there is a God, instead of, can we actually prove that there is a God? It is the same thing with flat earth. It's the same thing with most conspiracies, actually. This is the conclusion. How can we prove that this conclusion is right?
Exactly. And there's two people in the chat, both, I've got a lot of respect for both of them, and that's Speak Truth and Jose. And both of them obviously were in that flat earth environment, but they really, what all flat earthers say, we're asking questions, we're doing real research, we're looking for they really were, because yes, they had their idea that the earth was flat, but actually they did still retain that ability to evaluate evidence, on either side. They weren't just pretending that, it was like a dog turd and you pulled your mat over it. They were actually looking at it and sniffing at it, if that's if I've not gone too weird with that analogy.
Well, I mean, it's easy because of the way in which conspiracy theorists are able to frame their arguments. When you come from, and I explained this in one of the videos, when you come from an emotional standpoint, and most of us are emotional creatures, we're not logic-based creatures. We come from a standpoint of emotion. To be told, as an emotional person, to be told that you're wrong is something that we can't tolerate. It's something that we reject because it's just too devastating for us to actually accept it. So when you start from the emotional side of things, you have the soft sell. And you have to be in a situation where in your life where something doesn't make sense and you're looking for answers that you haven't found before. So it could be, like I have a name now, asks an anxiety component. That something doesn't add up anymore to the way you have been raised. So you have the soft sellers, you have the likes of the Mark Sargents, the orators, the very calm, and to some extent ranty. You have these people who are seemingly respectable, very calm. They speak in a way that appeals to your emotions. We have been lied to. We have been lied to. We all know this. Politicians lie. We have been lied to. And they keep going with this rhetoric, but they do so in an emotional way. And they appeal to the emotion. And then what they do, from what I've seen, is they invite you to the likes of the Oakleys, the hard sellers. So these are the people who have been targeted because of their attitude, I suppose. But what they will say is, we are targeted not because we're obnoxious, but because we believe in this. They don't believe in free speech. They're attacking us, so we have to go on the offensive. And so what happens for a lot of people that buy into those conspiracy theorists, or that have been bought by the soft cells, is they see these very reasonable people that they've been speaking to behind the scenes being attacked left, right, and center, and having to go on the offensive. And it kind of reinforces the idea that everyone is against us. We can't actually think for ourselves. We can't have these ideas because we're going to be attacked. And what it does is it throws those vulnerable people right into the hands of the con men. Kind of does the opposite of what people want to happen, which is to show these vulnerable people, these guys can't be trusted. They're taking advantage of you. Be very careful. What it comes across as is, well, the Oakleys are the victims. And so I have to fight to protect my friends who I've been speaking to for the last couple of weeks because they're being attacked by this group.
It's I think that's where, when you get deeper and deeper and deeper into, I don't want to use the word cult because I'm not really sure what the definition, the psychological definition of the word cult will be. But when you get into like a cult-like group and you're spending all of your time with those, it's got to be so much easier to fall into that way of thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you're surrounded by people who are complimenting you, to then be criticized by your family and your friends, or to then be criticized by other people, especially for, again, that emotional standpoint. When you come from an emotional perspective, you get to know these people very, very quickly. And for a lot of conspiracy theories or theorists that are getting into it, they might have just lost their jobs. They might have just gone through a breakup. They might have just gone through some experience in their life that's traumatic. And so along comes someone to say, you're right for having this feeling. I'm actually going to bring this one step further and explain why you're feeling this. It is very attractive. It's very attractive. It's very
So
enticing.
The dictionary definition of a cult, it gives you 2 examples: a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object, and then a person or a thing that is popular or fashionable among a particular group or section of society. Flat Earth is a cult.
It's very hard to call it a cult, but it has cult-like tendencies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's very easy to actually apply some of what we know to analysing cults to analysing certain conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very careful, though. I'm very careful with what I call a cult.
I suppose it'd be immediately when someone tells you are part of a cult. If someone said to me I was part of a cult, the first thing I'd be thinking is, you're insulting my intelligence. You think I'm, I can't think for myself, that kind of thing. And immediately when somebody says, you are in a cult, like say, you're going to feel like you're being attacked, and you're going to switch off to what they're saying.
Yeah. Again, it's from the emotional standpoint, especially if you're coming from it after some sort of trauma. Now, it doesn't need to be a big trauma, but it has to, 9 times out of 10, it's a trauma. So to be then told you're wrong, you can't really accept it. And especially when you have people who are saying they just don't understand you. We went through the same thing. And you'll often hear flat earthers in particular say, I went my whole life thinking the earth was round. Thompson especially, it's one of the first things he says, I went through my whole life. I've always thought the earth was round, but then I actually looked into it. And again, that's how they bring you in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like now you see similar things with these infomercials and adverts, and I spent all my life, with bingo wings or whatever, but then I found this, and look at me now, that kind of stuff. You can see how if it's coming from somebody who's very articulate and got a lot of personality and character, how it can draw people in, or draw certain people in, definitely.
Oh, that's an understatement. If you have a good orator, you can convince a lot of people of a lot of things, a lot of dangerous things.
So, in your mind, what would be the perfect solution, or is there not one?
I approach it the same way I approach politics. And for anyone who doesn't know, I have a master's in sociology. So I've studied sociology for a long time. I've been involved in politics and political movements, mainly documenting them, actually. And it's the same way by attacking the person, you risk losing the person. And this is, I've said this to you, I think, before, when it comes to debates. I've done debates for years. I was actually the chair of the Debating Society in university. And for me, it's never about who you're debating. It is about who has the potential to be listening. And when you direct everything that you're arguing towards those people, the people that might be listening, the people who want answers on both sides, on all sides of the debate, then you're more likely to be successful in what you want to achieve. So I approach the conspiracy theorists the same way. When I'm doing challenging conspiracies, it's never about any individuals. Although I've used individuals in the video, it's not about the individuals. It's about the ideas. And when you attack the ideas and give a better solution for the issues that they're raising, that's when you can actually make a difference.
Cat Tommy has just popped in. It's too late now, surely. 8:10.
Well, it's your call. Was he in the in the comment section, or
yeah?
He's in
the call. He's in the call. We'd have 50 minutes.
I mean, I can do a debate in 50 minutes. That's not. But Crafty's on now. I don't want to get kick Crafty
I don't
off.
mind. I don't mind. You know how much I love these debates.
Well, I mean, I'll leave it into your hands because.
You're the one who's debating him.
Should we just ask the chat? So Tommy's here. There's obviously been a bit of a misunderstanding. My phone just has buzzed. So type 1 if you just want to see a shorter version of the debate, and we'll get it on. Type 2 if you want to continue listening to us chat with Crafty. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, perfecto.
People want the debate. They came for the debate. Anyone can see me at any time. I'll just say that. So I do like these debates. And just real quick, because I think you said just before I came in to come in and talk to two of the baldest people, in the next year, I will be bald again. Because what I do is I grow my hair out until it's like down to my hip. And then I do the shaver dye for cancer research. So that'll be happening soon.
Fun.
And I donate my hair to the Rapunzel Foundation and the Little Princess Trust, which is a charity wig makers for cancer and alopecia patients. So people watch out for that.
Well, good luck with that. And yeah, we'll certainly shout that out. And for anyone who doesn't know, obviously everybody knows who you are. But for those who don't, you've got the wrench. Whack your channel, spam your channel in the chat. People really should be going and listening to what Crafty's got to say. You've had a small taste tonight of the type of content she puts out. She's very, very intelligent. It's very useful content as well, in an area that we don't really hear a lot of in this community. So, I'm a big, big fan of Crafty's. So, yeah, and you're a big, big help on all our streams as well. So thank you for that.
Of course, and I will chat to you later. Have a good stream.
See you later.
Right,
Cheers,
see you later.
Right, I'm busting for a pee, so I'm going to let Tommy in.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah,
How
you
are you doing?
Tom?
How you get on?
You're all right.
Completely
So-
caught me off guard.
Oh, you're just breaking up a little bit there, mate. Just
Can you hear me now? Is it clear? Let me check this mic.
I could then when it was right. Just speak now.
Check.
Yeah, maybe if you got a gain, it's just a volume thing. That's all. You're clear. You're not breaking up. Sorry, it's just volume thing.
Is that better? Check.
Oh,
Check.
perfect.
Check.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah, got it. Absolutely got it. So, yes, we've had it. So, you've been working. That's what I assume then.
Yeah, I've been really busy, man. Just busy. Just literally, I've completely forgot. Like, I didn't even know it was Wednesday. I was that occupied.
It does all blur into one, doesn't it? It does all blur into
it
one
does,
when you're just in the lockdown, especially. So it is a pain. Wait for Creaky to get back, but essentially, I'll just ask you because I think last time it was debate, we had like a little interview beforehand, didn't we? Just like a dead quick 15-minute one. I wouldn't mind just revisiting some of those questions, and then the debate's going to be very different this time, and I'm gunning for you, Tommy. All right, I'm gunning for you. I'm gunning for you this time. It was nice and cool. Well, we'll see because it was nice and relaxed and chill. But it was chilled because last time you come on, it was you'd only just decided to. I don't even think you probably were a flat earther, were you?
Never have been. Never. I don't think I ever will be because I don't think unless I actually see the planet for myself. Let's actually see it with my own eyes. Seeing's believing, and I think I don't see the curve, which is why I'm a bit skeptical towards what's been proposed by the globe. But I'm never going to make that mistake again, thinking I know ultimately just because I've seen a bunch of evidence that could be fabricated, but very unlikely that it's been fabricated. But at the same time, to keep an open mind and to keep critical, you should, how do you actually know for a fact? I mean, that's the one thing.
So, well, because that was kind of your stance last time, and on the comments that we exchanged to set this up again, you said, we had our first chat 8 months ago. A lot has changed. You've got more proof that has convinced you. So, would you say you are much more hardened now in your belief that the Earth can't be a globe? Would you say, or that gravity doesn't exist? Or
you know what? I'd say, I haven't gone back to the globe and saying it's definitely a globe. I've never, I don't think I will. I think what Flat Earth's done is kind of like made me realise that, these maths and all these things could be fabricated and could be manipulated. And, I think the only way to really know is what you can experience and what you can confirm for yourself. And there's a lot of stuff you can't confirm for yourself. So I'd say I'm still going to remain skeptical towards the globe. I think if I had to, you know what I mean? I had to go against the grain, I guess, and just go against the all the stuff that we can't confirm, like space and seeing the planet from up there. You know what I mean? Ourselves. You know, there's no like commercial flights up there. There's no way to go and see the planet for myself. And I think that's where I rest now. I'd just rather just wait and see.
All right, so you're not right, okay? Because I thought you'd gone like, you know, like definite flat Earth kind of thing.
Definitely, like I can't claim it to be that. I can't claim that the Earth's definitely flat because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in its entirety. But you know, there's a lot to suggest that. There's a lot to suggest that the dimensions that may be wrong. You know, when we look at the black swan, you know, you want some evidence. I mean, I think that's pretty good. When I'm hearing from a lot of globers is that it's refracting and looming. But then when you think about what they're proposing, is the light's bending over a curve and going down into your eyes. It's just preposterous. It's like, are they even thinking straight? Because they could be wrong.
Well, we'll definitely get onto that in the actual debate. We did agree, just for anyone watching, because listen, we try and keep this channel as civil as possible. And last time it was, you know, we were great, but I think for flat Earth debates, I like the idea of somebody speaks and gets all the time they want uninterrupted for like 3 minutes. While you speak, I'm on mute.
Yeah.
And then we just change, and then that way we're not falling out and arguing, and you know, getting you know what I mean. It's as even and as fair as it can be. So I put that in the email to you. Are you happy with that? Yeah.
I've not looked at anything or like that. I've been really fucking. I'm not prepared for this, yeah. So, but let's go. I'm ready. Like, I feel like I've been living it every day, and I've been debating with people every day, day in, day out. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It all comes down to the same thing. All the stuff is unconfirmable.
Well, we'll start. We've got about 45 minutes because obviously it's late. But if maybe we have like an 8-minute opener each, and then we'll just have a few rounds of 3 minutes, and just if we feel at the end of it we need another one, we'll schedule another one.
Yeah. Sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah. Let's go then.
Right. Do you want to go first or second for the kind of
I'll go second. I still won't forget. I won't take all my time anyway. I think, but I'll only take about a minute or so.
All right. Well, I have prepared some stuff. I'm just going to see if I can share some stuff for Creaky here. Right. Now, I have prepared specifically for you for this, and the reason being.
Oh God!
I won't start just yet, but my whole philosophy is, I mean, like, look, you're a nice guy, and whenever we've chatted, you've always been perfectly friendly.
Don't worry, mate. You make fun of me. I've made fun of you on the music video. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's banter, it. I do that all the time. I can't get sore because somebody makes a joke at me. I do it all the time on my channel. You know what I mean? It's like,
I see, completely ripping everybody, and I'm one of your next victims. It looks like. Let's go.
No. But like, I think, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way before I start my speech, but I think that the line of thinking you've fallen into is because of other people out there, like people like Crafty was talking about before, people like the Nathan Oakley's, quantum erasers, who are feeding massive amounts of misinformation. And I think that perhaps you're in a position where you've fallen for that because you don't have, perhaps, you know, I've forgotten loads of stuff. I was at school, right? You probably remember loads more about languages and history and stuff. Yeah. I think you've probably forgotten more about science and maths than I have since you've been at school. I think possibly, given that I've never stopped and I've been teaching it for 20 years. So I'm going to give you my opinion, and hopefully you won't fall into any of these predictions. So we'll start the 8 minutes. Just put yourself on mute, and then I'll thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
So we're ready then.
Just put my PowerPoint on the screen and we'll start.
Okay, fire away. 8 minutes starts now.
Okay, so ultimately what I'm going to make the prediction of is you want to talk about gas pressure. And one of the things that I think you've been fed by people who are quite scientifically illiterate is the question, show me gas pressure without a container. And it doesn't matter how many times we tell those people that you can step outside and look at a field and you can measure gas pressure anywhere here, and there isn't a container, you can't see it. It doesn't matter how many times you tell them that, they will still say, well, where's the container? Where's the container? Where's the container? It doesn't matter how many times you tell them that a pressure gradient shows clear examples of vast pressure differences existing next to each other from here to the top of Mount Everest, because that's not good enough. Once you talk about the pressure gradient, the tactic changes. And the tactic people like Sleeping Warrior, Quantum Eraser, Nathan Oakley like to pull out is this question here, okay? They'll say, oh, well, you need to have a container for pressure in the first place. That's what you need to have. And it's a soundbite. And you've been fed with soundbites. Now, I would ask why do you need to have a container for pressure in the first place? Where do you possibly get that from? Surely you need gas to have gas pressure because it's the gas particles bouncing off something. But my prediction will be that I will hear this quote. Now, this is the quote that I've seen a million times from flat earthers when they want to talk about gas pressure. It's the definition, the very first thing you get from Google when you type in definition of gas pressure. For anyone in America, key stage 3 physics down here is for 14-year-olds at the very oldest. This is for 11 to 14-year-old children. But it's handy because it's got the word container in it. So people like Sleeping Warrior and Quantum Eraser and Nathan Oakley can say, oh, no, you must have a container to have gas pressure because it's in the definition. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell them, well, if we're quote mining from Google, we'll talk about atmospheric pressure, which doesn't have it, because they'll still say, no, look, here's the gas pressure container. The atmosphere is made of gas. You must have a container. But in the real world, in the grown-up world, we have this as real science, not stuff aimed at 14-year-olds or 11-year-olds. This is a scientific paper talking about, let's look, the second law of thermodynamics and entropy and how it relates to how the atmosphere behaves. It breaks it all down. You can sit and you can read this paper. Look, here's a nice little bit here that talks about entropy of the physical system, talking about how it's proportional to the quantity of energy no longer available to do physical work, which matches our atmospheric gradient perfectly. But will you ever see the people feeding you this nonsense even go anywhere near that? Do you honestly think people like Nathan Oakley can look at that and make head and a tail of it? They can't, because this is their level. They will ignore that and say, yeah, but you might show me the scientific paper, but this definition has the word container in it. So I'm going to hopefully make a prediction that, when we are talking in this debate here, that you don't plump to keep going back to option C here, which is the 11 to 14-year-old definition of gas pressure. I'm hoping that you either acknowledge atmospheric pressure, but I'm hoping we can talk on a scientific level that is way, way above what we get down here. Because if we're operating down here at C, right, then we're operating at an 11-year-old or a 14-year-old science level, and that's not good enough. So I'm going to make a little tally chart as we're talking at how many times I'm told that we need a container for gas pressure without being given any kind of evidence about it. So I'm going to keep a record of that just to see. My second prediction is that you've been fed information by the likes of Spurs Chemo and Sleeping Warrior that will tell you we have a pressure gradient because plants photosynthesize and that causes gas production at ground level. But I will then clearly point out to you that you're talking about a pressure gradient that isn't instantly spreading out like you say it should because of diffusion, which is an incredibly fast process. But I'm also going to say that if you're claiming the pressure gradient is created by gas constantly being added into a contained system, then why, like a balloon, is the pressure not just constantly increasing all of the time? Why do we have that 14.7 psi at ground level if we are constantly topping it up with gas like we'd expect in a balloon? And I'm hoping you'd realise that what you've been fed there will be naff. But I will keep a tally if you use the whole gas being produced at ground level and then not answer the points I've just made. My third prediction is that you will probably talk about gravity and you'll say Einstein versus Newton, and they are different because it's a quote. It's quote mining from these people that I think you've fallen for. Although they might say gravity is not a force. And it doesn't matter how many times we tell those people that what Newton did is he came up with a mathematical relationship that perfectly describes gravity, perfectly describes motion of objects, and how it causes an acceleration to mass, and it's predictable, and it causes masses to accelerate, and this is how we describe gravity as a force. But you just look here, nowhere does Newton ever claim to know how gravity works. He just says we can describe the relationship as a force because it causes a mass to accelerate, right? So when we talk about gravity is a force, this is what we mean. It means it makes a mass accelerate. That's at quite a basic level. But Newton never claimed to know how it works. Einstein did try and claim, or at least try and come up with a model of how it works. Now, his model was different for how the strong nuclear force works, the electromagnetic force, the weak nuclear force, which operates on bosons. His model operates on space-time, which means in the strict sense of these forces here, it's not actually like them, which is where we get the term not a force. So the honest thing to do is accept that, okay, that's why people sometimes use the term it's a force and sometimes use the term it's not a force, but you can think of it as one. And really, if I keep hearing in this debate that you're telling me, but is it a force or is it not? Is it Einsteinian versus Newtonian? I'm just going to chalk it up on here because it's been addressed a million times. You know, let's be honest about where we're going with this. Last one. You've already mentioned the black swan. Now, you know, you mentioned refraction as not being a possibility. And we can talk about the black swan. But when we talk about the black swan, are we going to be honest enough to say that this one here looks like it's melting in the sun, like a bit of chocolate in the sun? And are we going to be honest enough to acknowledge that when we take photographs where they do not look like the melting, we get the horizon where we'd expect it to be? And when we acknowledge that point, then we can go forward. But if we're not even going to acknowledge that there's a massive amounts of atmospheric distortion there, there's going to be a problem.
60
now I think there we go. I think I'm almost done. But that's it. You know, I just wanted to make those points because they were things we talked about last time, and I don't want to repeat old ground. I just want to show everyone that it's been discussed, and if we're going to have the discussion again, let's move on from the answers we were given rather than pretend the answers weren't given, if that makes sense. I will go on mute. You've got 8 minutes.
8 minutes, that's more than enough. Don't know where to begin. You've dogpiled quite a lot there, and I think it'd be nice to just go into one point at a time. You're mentioning I've been fed, like this information that I've been exposed to has been fed to me. Now, it's like a buffet. The world's like a buffet, right? You can choose what you want. You know, there's a lot of different types of food, a lot of different types of information. But I've obviously with schools and the way that the educational system is, you know, it's set up to have one specific thing that we all agree the Earth's a globe. We all agree that so that information was fed to me, if anything was fed. Why isn't you mentioned about gas? Why doesn't it feel like equally inside of a container? Obviously, you showed a demonstration of a balloon, but then now you're trying to compare that to the world itself. Now, I think when we say we can't have a gas pressure without a container, I don't think you quite understand the question, because the globe model claims that we're in a vacuum with gas pressure and no container, but the container that you talk of is gravity. That has to be your only container. You can't really say atmosphere is its container, because you said something about gas would instantly equal pressure in the container. But you think about how the world was formed when it very first began, and you just got a rock where the moon crashed into the Earth, and you know this all happened in space, mind you. And then whenever these first gas molecules first created in your model, it was exposed to 100% vacuum. So why these molecules that left the rock or wherever they started forming, in because you don't know how the world was created, do you? But you're just assuming that all these collisions happened by themselves and created this Earth, and the first gas molecule that came from the Earth didn't go out into space for some reason, stayed to the Earth because gravity was holding it there. It just don't make no sense. And you can say it's an argument for incongruity, but I don't really think that people are actually thinking about it properly. What else did you mention? Prediction, mass cells, Einstein explained. Yeah, I do agree with you on the point where you say that people will flip-flop between the misunderstanding between thinking of a force when it's not a force. I think you got a good point there. It's just sometimes it's trying to understand between the two what people are saying, and sometimes people can take out what they want. But at the same time, can you actually definitively say whether gravity is a force or not? I think you would argue that you can. But there's people that disagree. It's in contention, isn't it? Whether it's a force or not. I think Einstein was trying to explain it. And I guess the actual the mechanism and the rate that things fall, that was the way that Newtonian explained it. And I think that's very clear. I ain't really arguing about that. I think that the point comes down to that one, space isn't a vacuum like they say it is. Or two, there's some sort of different medium just outside of our atmosphere that's acting as a container that's holding the gas down, so it doesn't let gas escape. And that seems to me quite consistent, because you say that you can have gas pressure without a container because that's what your model is, and you're saying gravity is the force that's holding down the gas molecules. So you can use the Earth, you can use the very same gravity that's supposedly holding down the molecules, and then show us that being exposed to a vacuum where the gas is being held down, because we always know that gas will always rush out to fill the available space. gravity would have no effect on gas molecules. You can't show us gas molecules being pulled down by the force you call gravity. We need a demonstration of that. What we don't need is using open containers saying it's not a container, because I can see a lot of other people doing the misunderstanding the question itself. What you need to demonstrate is Earth's gravity pulling down gas molecules inside of a vacuum. You know what I mean? And they can, if you haven't been educated in schools to show you about the atmosphere and how why we should be equal pressure everywhere, then there is a way to have, what's the word I'm looking for, a gradient inside of a container. That's not an impossibility. That don't defy physics by having a gradient inside of a container. So I don't see why why a lot of globers like such as yourself will always go to that argument saying, well, how come we've got a gradient? Like a gradient's exclusive to a globe. Like a gradient's exclusive to gravity. It's not. It's not exclusive to that. So you have to keep an open mind to the point that a gradient inside of a container can be demonstrated using centrifugal forces. But like you say, there's a spinning, the rotation. But yeah, I like that you've prepared a lot for us. I'm literally unprepared, and I guess I yield the rest of my time to get a response to get the chat going.
Okay. So, I mean, you said a few things there. I'm just going to screen share again, because I think the point I want to make is that when you are hearing these arguments from people like Sleeping Warrior, Nathan Oakley, etc., these whole same arguments that you've just you put out there, those arguments are, again, along the level of, is it up? Yeah, Creaky.
Yeah, the 12th grade, I guess.
They're basically talking about this. This is where they're getting the information from. What I want to do is I want to ask you, because this is the answer you are looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be mean or show you. Do you understand what that means?
The entropy of a physical system is proportional to the quantity of energy no longer available in physical to be worked. Not exactly, no. Could you explain what you think of it?
Okay, so when we're talking about the ability to do work, right, we're talking or energy being the ability to do work. Try and think of it in terms of, moving something or expanding or pushing something out of the way. You've got energy. If you can do work, you've got energy. All right, that's not a textbook definition, but
no such thing as a free meal. You have to put work in to get something out. You can't. You've got to have energy. I know that. But in that sort of language, there now, when it's worded that way, it can be. I can understand the argument, but not by reading that. But I know what you're on about. Energy can't be. Yeah, I know that. But you see, like reading this, it's just like putting something in Chinese and saying, "Oh, what does that say?" Because it's been worded different. Now, that's what I notice a lot of people do is they make complicated things. They make simple things sound complicated. But you could just simplify it by saying you can never get free energy. You have to put something in to get something out, which is totally understandable.
I think it's the other way around. I think the skill of the educator is to take the complicated things and make them sound simple. And when they're made very simple, i.e. to the level of this, then it becomes too simple to draw honest conclusions from for people, who are kind of in the flat earth arena. What this basically does is it answers your questions. This tells you exactly why gas isn't flying off into the atmosphere of space. It's all, it answers any questions you've got about entropy. It answers any questions you've got about second law of thermodynamics. I will send you this entire paper and it will answer all of those questions that you've got. And this paper goes on and on and on. It's quite a lengthy read, but we have to be thinking above the level of, oh, look, this is pressure. Because as long as we keep coming back to saying you've got to demonstrate pressure without a container, we're operating here. Now, before I just hand back to you, I have got a question for you to expand on what you said. You talked about gradients, yeah? You said you can have a gradient in a container. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got a gradient. If you've got a gradient, that means, the gas is sort of falling down, doesn't it? The gas is moving down.
Yeah.
So in that instance, I'm glad you've considered the gas is falling down. In that instance, why do you need a lid on that container if the gas is falling down? Because it's falling down, not up.
Okay, because you've imagine a grain of sand on a football pitch, and then imagine that football pitch being 1 billion times bigger, enlarged compared to the grain of sand. And that grain of sand's the Earth inside of apparently an expanding universe that should there's more space. So there's loads of air there for it to rush into. And you're trying to say that this massive vacuum that we're surrounded by, that gravity managed to hold it down when the Earth's spinning, putting, conservation of momentum in the gas molecules. You've got the heat from the sun exciting the particles. You've got you've got all sorts of things. It's loads of energy to escape the negligible gravity that holds down one gas molecule. And that's what, when I think about what actually physics is saying about the relationship between gravity and a gas molecule, it's literally negligible. But then you've got all these energies and all these things, disturbances, giving it loads of energy, and it's not escaping out into space for some reason. And you for some reason, all of a sudden, it's fine. Sorry.
No. Go. You've got 3 minutes. I'm not going to interrupt you. Go on.
All right. Yeah. All of a sudden, it acts as a barrier and a force, bringing the gas back down and stopping it from escaping. Whereas I think with all these forces that are going on, all this spinning, and if it's and all this energy that's going into these molecules, they should just continue on motion unless acted upon by a force. So that conservation of momentum inside that molecule should just escape. And what you're saying is gravity is all of a sudden becoming stronger and holding it down.
Ah, right. Now that's not what I'm saying. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you really carefully, and I want you to tell me where I'm wrong in this explanation, like what doesn't fit, yeah? Because that's not what's happening. So as the gas is rising, right? Just like if you were to run up a hill, you're going on your training, you're going on it. But when you run up, you're knackered because you're doing work against whatever it is that's pulling down. You're doing work against gravity. It's harder to go up, right? And as gas particles are moving, they've got to do that same work against gravity. They've got to do the same thing. They are losing energy. They are colliding with each other, and a lot of collisions. Think about snooker balls when they bang into each other. Some will gain energy, some will lose energy. There are so as you are going up through the atmosphere, the energy those particles have, the speed they're able to run at, right? If you like, if you imagine run up a mountain, by the time you get to the top, you're flipping knackered, yeah? You haven't got that energy to sprint. It's the same with the gas particles. They've lost the ability to do the work by the time they get to a certain height. And because they've lost the ability to do the work, they're all spent out of energy, they're not going anywhere. And so it's not a case that gravity needs to be stronger to stop them. Like, if you were sprinting...
Can you hear me? You're basically saying you need to escape velocity. You need enough energy to escape the gravitational kind of range.
I'm saying more than that, though. I'm saying more than that. I'm saying that as you are because you made the claim that gravity somehow gets stronger when it's up there. What we're saying is that's a straw man model of what we're saying. When the gas actually gets that high, it's lost its energy. It it just simply doesn't want to go anywhere. And that's what we see. And that's what we can model. And if you did some high altitude training, right, you've got to, or athletes do it all the time, don't they, to increase the red blood count because the air is thinner up there. That's what we see. There just is less of it. So for this conversation to progress, I need you to tell me why that is wrong. Why that just doesn't work. Right? Can you rather than going back, can we go forward?
I've believed the heliocentric model for my whole life. Like I know it works. I got, I understand that you need, like you're saying, it's not like that gravity just all of a sudden kicks in and becomes a barrier. I didn't say that it becomes stronger as it gets higher, but eventually it acts as a container because you cannot have the gas pressure on Earth without something containing it. Your container is gravity. I understand that, but the escape velocity. What point was I meant to respond to? There was another point, wasn't there?
I think that the point was that basically I've said that the model isn't that they shoot up in the air and then suddenly gravity stops them. They literally stop moving because they run out of energy.
Yeah. So they get enough kinetic energy and they get like all the energy they get whatever's inspired them going up, that will eventually dissipate. So the energy will dissipate and it won't escape, and then obviously it will start to come back down again, and it trickle down. Basically, is what you're saying.
Ish, not necessarily that ish, but yeah, essentially they're going to run out of energy and they're not going to fly off. They're not going to rain back down again. But
if the gravity force is always at play, whenever it's already got that momentum to escaping it, I don't understand why it's still, as it's already so negligible amount compared to the mass of a molecule compared to the gravitational pull on the Earth. They literally move free in all directions. So a molecule in motion will remain in motion unless acted on by a force. And I think if that force is always at play, that force should have already dominated it. And if it's already moved off, then it should never then eventually still lingering onto that molecule and pulling it back. I think a molecule in motion remains in motion, and I think that's why I think it's safe to assume that maybe there is a container of some sort, or that the space isn't what they're saying it is. That's something to keep an eye on.
I think in what you've just said there, you've literally you've contradicted yourself. Let me put this contradiction to you and see what you think of it. Because if I was to throw something in the air, you've just said yourself, Newton's first law, an object in motion. Now, the key is an object in motion will remain in that constant motion.
Yeah.
right? Not just remain in motion, it will remain in that constant motion unless acted upon by an external force. So you throw something up in the air, and for it to fall down again, that's not remaining in constant motion. That is its motion changing. So you've just, by arguing that, you are like agreeing that if I do that with my pen, its motion has changed, therefore it is being acted upon by an external force. And if you don't believe that, then you're contradicting what you just said about Newton's first. So do you see the contradiction?
Well, like physical objects, for example, and water, you tip some water, it'll fall to the floor. That's not what the question is. It's about gas molecules, and I think they behave very differently because they're not, the bonds aren't tight. So they're independent, and they have such small amount of mass that gravity has no effect on it. It literally, you show me a gas going down and you give it more and more time, it will dissipate and it will eventually go in all directions. It always goes in all directions. I've never seen a gas.
Sorry, we've taken a complete 180 then and gone away from the original point. And it was nice. It was smooth what you did, but we were talking about Newton's first law, and the whole conversation here is about gravity, right? And I know you wanted to get away from the pen or the ball that I said, but you are arguing Newton's first law, that an object in motion will remain in motion, constant motion, unless acted upon by an external force. I've raised a really good point that when you throw something up, that motion isn't constant. It comes back down again. Therefore, there is the force. And we can't just skip over that. So
yes,
why is that not evidence of a force? And the fact that I'm talking about a pen and not gas, that I'm talking about a pen and not gas doesn't mean that force isn't there. So, what's happened to that force?
Well, that force acts upon, water and solids. It does not act upon gases the way that you're trying to claim it to. I mean, that's what we want proof for. That's the question. How can you demonstrate gas molecules being pulled down when every gas molecule seems to go in all directions over a given time? And that's I understand that when you throw a ball up, eventually it's fight. You've put so much force into the ball at a certain angle, and this, it'll arc down because there's a constant. As soon as that ball's left my hand, it's being acted on, and eventually it'll what's the word I'm looking for? Curve down and go down to the floor. So I understand the principle that you're trying to put across, but I don't think you understand why. I did answer your question by saying we're talking about gases. I might try to dodge it. I'm just trying to say that this is what we need an example for. We need a physical demonstration of gas being pulled down. And if we ain't got that, the best thing to do is just concede that I can't demonstrate gas pressure without a container, and I can't demonstrate gas molecules being pulled down by the force of gravity. That's all you need to. That's all you need to concede.
Well, let's move on from that. Not move on. Let's stick with that point, actually. Sorry. Okay. But I just want to go to something else you said there. You said before you started that section that solids and liquids are affected by that force, right? But not gases. Yeah. So you just want to get this right. You are claiming that bodies of water, like the ocean and the sea, are affected by a force that pulls them down towards the earth. Is that what you said?
I guess what I can say for argument's sake, because I don't even if I give you gravity, I'll give you all the gravity in the world. Let's say that when you've got like when you add centrifuge to spinning a bottle around, you'll get liquids forming. They'll form, the formation of the liquids will be horizontal. Or is it vertical? Vertical, sorry. And then obviously when you put the bottle, it will go down a level again. So it depends. So I understand with liquids and solids. That's fine. If you want to call it gravity, whatever force you want to call it, whatever, down stuff, then yeah. But we're talking about gas molecules, and I think that's the only thing that we need to see.
Okay. Well, let's apply that to the shape of the Earth then. So you're happy that there is a force that's pulling solids and liquids down, all right? Now that then doesn't stop the Earth being a sphere in any way, shape, or form if that force is pulling liquid down to the Earth. So your argument is then about gas. Now, we could argue all week about, well, this is an example of gas being pulled down by gravity. This isn't. But what you're essentially saying and what you said there is, it's perfectly fine for the Earth to be a globe, but in your opinion, a globe that maybe has a container. So the Earth not necessarily is flat because you've just agreed that the forces exist that could make the Earth a globe, but a globe that you think needs a container because the gases need to escape. Would you agree that that's kind of what you just said?
You kind of put in words in my mouth, and I did say to you that, for argument's sake, to get to the argument, which is just about gas being pulled down, and it seems you're more concerned with trying to get a concession of me saying the gravity's real. Whatever you want to call that downward acceleration, whatever you want to call items finding their relative density, or whenever you can call it whatever you like. I mean, I'm not no biased. I don't care if it's round, flat, oblong. I couldn't care what the shape of the world is, but I just don't know it. And I think that anyone who's any critical thinker would share the same opinion because you just don't know. We could be could be anything. But the point I'm trying to get along to the point, which is we ain't got the demonstration. You can't demonstrate it, and I'm sick of Globers not just conceding that point that we can't demonstrate it, we can't show you it, but it is there, and that's the thing we have to believe, and I think that's a leap of faith on your behalf.
We'll get to guessing, but what you said at the beginning of that essentially was that you've not got any horse in the race, right? You're just trying to figure out what's possible and what isn't possible, right? That would be a fair assessment of what you've said, yeah? So what I'm saying is then we should only rule things out if we think they're impossible. All right. Now, the whole reason we're talking about the globe there and water being pulled down by, as you call this, downward acceleration, right? That doesn't rule out the Earth being a sphere, does it?
No, it doesn't rule it out. No, it doesn't rule it out. I mean, I've argued with a few flat earthers about this as well because, I hold that kind of position where it's not even with other evidence, it doesn't prove that it's still not a larger globe. It doesn't prove that maybe we could be the size of 10 times the size of Jupiter. Who knows? I don't know, but no, it doesn't rule out that it could. I don't think this argument rules out whether it's a globe or not. I agree with that.
Okay, well that's brilliant. That's nice. So now we'll go on to the gas argument and we'll talk just about the gas. Okay, so I got a question from somebody emailed me a couple of days ago, and they were asking about. And if that person's watching, we'll talk about it now. They were talking about graphene aerogel. Now, graphene aerogel is, you can Google it. It's got a you know it, the really clever stuff, isn't it? It's got a density about 1/6 the density of air, but it doesn't float. Okay. And the reason it doesn't float is it's full of nanotubes on the inside. And because it's full of nanotubes on the inside, it can hold a lot of air. And that stops it floating. Now, without the air, right, so without the air inside, it would float, okay? But because it holds air inside, it doesn't float because the material itself, the graphene aerogel, has got a density that's less than 1/6 of air. You can Google it. Now, that shows that the air itself has a weight. That shows the air itself, you can measure its mass, you can measure its weight. And a weight is what we measure when we put something on a balance and it pushes the balance down. That's how a balance works. You compress the springs or whatever, and you get that compression. So air has a weight. Air is being pushed down. How does that not fit with what you said?
Well, what I'm hearing a lot is, does air have weight? Does the mass of the molecule have weight? That's not an argument either. And I hear a lot of Globers always, gas has weight, therefore gravity argument done. And I'm just like, yeah, it can have weight. When you contain it, put it on a container, it has its weight. You can register, you can tear out the container and you can find out that gas molecules I don't disagree that a molecule it's made up of matter. That matter can be, weighed. And without them gas molecules hitting off a surface, you can't have gas or gas pressure without it. So, it's essential. But just because it has some material to it, because it's a physical thing, does that mean therefore it goes down? Like, no, it doesn't, because every demonstration we ever see of gas goes in all directions. You fart, it goes everywhere. And I know there's different things like thermal energy and but it goes everywhere. Open up a can of pop, air goes everywhere. And sorry, but the argument about your material, I guess that's all relative to the air that it's in. Now, if we have, we're doing a lot of experiments inside of the atmosphere around here, or the air that we're exposed to. We're doing it, but and we need to prove that is or isn't contained first. You know what I mean? Because we do experiments within it with different sorts of materials, and we go, oh, look at someone showed me before like a bucket and poured some gas into it, and goes, oh, look, why is the gas going down in the bucket? Well, because it's surrounded by other air, and it's relating to that air, and it's all relative, isn't it? We need an independent example, and we didn't got one.
So, like, what I'm going to do, this next bit isn't aimed at you, because I know you've said you haven't got a horse in the race, you don't know what shape it is, right? So I'm not aiming at you, but there are people who are watching who are kind of like on the edge. And I just want to point out that, so you're happy that there's downward acceleration, you're happy that a globe isn't ruled out at all, it doesn't rule it out. But you said air can have weight, and you talked about air going out in all directions. I think we both know that if you walk down to your kitchen at night, you've got no socks on, and you open the fridge door, your feet get cold, more so than your head, because we know cold air sinks. We know it does. We know warm air rises, and if it didn't rise, we wouldn't be able to fly a hot air balloon. So we know about the movement of air, and we know that it's due to the amount of energy that the air has got and the density of that air. So yeah, again, we're going back to that definition, that key stage 3 definition, that a gas will fill its container. That's where we're at with the argument that it spreads out everywhere. But when we look a little bit deeper and we look about the movement of cold air down and hot air up, and we ask ourselves what's causing that, is, you know, the density and the energy of those particles, we're taking it a step above. So I think, you know, we haven't got a massive amount of time left on the chat, which is probably what it's turned into. I was expecting you to come in trying to slam loads of flat earth evidence and shoot it down.
Don't get me wrong. I'm well underprepared. You know what I mean? I'm really unprepared, and I would have. We can do it again. We will. Yeah.
But
I do feel like it's a repeat process from last time we spoke, because I kept asking a question and I kept getting, you know, taken further. Do you not agree that there's no demonstration that can be done? Or do you
give me the specific demonstration? Let's just nail down right to the bottom of this then. What specific demonstration do you want to see? Or to show what?
I mean, a good one would be get a large vacuum chamber, get like a surface and create some centrifugal force on there. If you can't use the Earth's gravity, maybe to get some sort of model where you can spin something, you can and put some gas onto the pulling point. And then have that inside of a vacuum and show us the gas, you know, sticking to the surface. An open surface, not a bucket, not a container, not an open container, a surface, because the Earth is a ball inside of space. So we need something to replicate the model that we're proposed to be, because we can't confirm anything out there. And I know you've got satellites and you've got this and all that, but none of this stuff is really like hands-on, can see it straight. I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? I've looked at all the space footage. I've looked at all the stuff from outside, and it's not enough, to be honest. I mean, I know it's a byproduct. I know they're not trying to show the shape of the Earth for the space agencies, but it's not enough.
Just clarify those specifically, the demonstration again. Sorry, because I know you started.
Sorry.
Yeah, what is the actual demonstration? We'll see. What point do you want proving?
I need an open surface and using the Earth's gravitational pull, or creating some synthetic centrifugal force inside of a vacuum with gas being held to the surface and not dispersing off into all directions. So just basically showing us that a force can hold down gravity inside of exposed to a vacuum, or
so you take some gas, right, and you put it in a container. Let's say we're doing that. What would it look like? What would the gas look like? Would it look like it's all held to that surface at the bottom? Or would it look like it's kind of graduating towards that surface? It's mainly heading towards that surface. What would it look like? Like a gradient.
I think it would disperse in all directions inside of a vacuum, but I mean, I guess what you was poking at was the gradient idea, which even if you could show us a gradient inside of a vacuum, that'd be great. You know what I mean? But I don't think it can be done.
Right. So what you're claiming is, we take a vacuum. So if we had this is a kind of argument that a flat earther would make, and I think you've fallen for this from the likes of Sleeping Warrior and Nathan Oakley. When a flat earther says, look, take a football and show me pouring water on a football and the water sticking to the ball, that's obviously a dishonest argument, because obviously the gravity of the Earth is, and this is exactly the same. If you're saying take a miniature vacuum that's around about here, all right, and fill it with gas and have all that gas sink to the bottom, that is just as scientific. If I did that, I would be disproving our understanding of gravity. Do you know what I mean? Okay. If we were to build a vacuum chamber that was really cool,
you can't do it then. Just say you can't demonstrate.
You're asking me to do something that disproves gravity as we know it. Do you know what I mean? Do you understand? If I say to you, I can't take a tennis ball and pour water on it so it sticks on it like the ocean. Okay. If I could, that disproves gravity. But what you're saying is, but what you're saying is, with that experiment, is get me a vacuum chamber, put some gas in, and let it all sink to the bottom. You know, at sea temperature and pressure. At sea level temperature pressures, that is just the same as saying pour the water on the ball. If I could do that, I would disprove gravity.
I'm saying to you, that's not true at all. That's not true at all, because what I'm saying is, use centrifugal force, recreate it in some sort of scale, in some sort of way. All you need to demonstrate, however you need to formulate that, is gas being held to a surface using centrifugal force, or replicating the Earth's gravitational pull inside of a vacuum. Or you say you can't do it because it's not to scale. I mean, we can't. So
you talk about a gas gradient. You mean when you say held to a surface, do you mean show a gas gradient?
If I get a balloon and I put it inside of a vacuum, and the gas, you put it on you put a scale inside there, the scale would register the weight. You pop the balloon, gas goes in all directions. You know, yeah. But you're saying because that can't represent the Earth because the model's too small, the vacuum's too small. You need a vacuum the size of the Earth, and etc. Is that what you'd need? A vacuum the size
No,
of the Earth.
I'm saying that the balloon is a complete misrepresentation of the Earth. And we go back to one of the questions we had in the first debate, which was the difference between pressure and pressurized. You're analogizing the Earth's atmosphere with like a tire or a balloon that's all at full pressure. I showed you, and this is, I want to move, if I just screen share here, I want to move forward from this, not backwards. I showed you this. Sorry, let me just get that on. Slide. Okay. I showed you what we've got here. We talked about, moving above that 13-year-old, 14-year-old level of understanding and looking at actually what energy is and what work is and how it's distributed in the atmosphere. And this here is what the model is, or part of what the model is. As long as you're going to talk about it being like a gas in a balloon, it's just not an honest model. Again, you may as well be telling me to pour water on a tennis ball and it stick to the tennis ball. So there's
no way you can demonstrate gas being held down to a surface inside of a vacuum on Earth. There's no way you could do that. Is that what you're saying?
Held down? What do you mean held down to the surface?
Oh, gas being held down to a surface, like we have in heliocentric model, we're an open surface inside of a low pressure, with gas molecules held to the surface. But didn't
you say right at the very beginning that gas gradients can exist in a container, and you're convinced of that?
That gas gradients can I've got centrifugal forces they can use to prove
that's
that.
That's what you're asking for. You're asking for a gas gradient in a container. That's what, because I'm not sure what you mean. You're asking for something to be in a container. You're saying put it in a vacuum. As soon as you put gas in a vacuum, it's not a vacuum, is it?
I know
it's
that,
not a
vacuum. I agree with that. I agree with that. But I know it's technically no longer, you can't call it a vacuum because it's got gas in there, therefore eradicating it being a vacuum, but we still need to see gas molecules being held down to the surface. And we're not saying, how do we have a vacuum without a container? The question is gas pressure without a container. So once we've got the vacuum in the container, that's the vacuum's contained. That's because we're trying to replicate what's up in space. Now, when we get like, how do rockets work in space? We get people demonstrating rockets in a vacuum because they're trying to recreate the similarities to space. But now when we ask gas pressure in a vacuum, it's like, you're going to say it's a container. I mean, it's just easier to concede that this can't be demonstrated, and that's it. But what you guys keep saying, atmosphere, we've got pictures from space, gas, it's just not enough. We just need a demonstration of gas molecules being pulled down using the gravitational pull of the Earth. We're exposed to it constantly. So there's no way for you to put a vacuum above a gas molecule that's being pulled to the surface. It would just fill the vacuum.
So if I can just screen share again, we've gone back to this, and I did make the prediction. I was hoping we could move on, because at the very beginning, I talked about what the answer is about this. I talked about looking at the atmosphere, looking at that pressure gradient, and we're back to the same thing again, where it doesn't matter, that I'm pointing you in the direction of what you need. We're going back to this, just blatantly saying, because we're running out of ideas, we have to have a container, but you're not really explaining why. Tell me why we need to have a container. Why do we actually have to have one?
Yeah. Again, Catz, it's come to me more explaining to you why we're wrong, rather than you just conceding that you cannot demonstrate it. That's like last time I asked you, how do you have gas pressure without a container? For 2 hours, you'd strung me along before you answered before you even answered the question, and you give me a brief answer. And now it's become more like, explain to this. It's all I need to know is that you can't demonstrate it because it's, what is it? Impossible. Well,
what you're asking, Brooomie, like I said, is that question about pouring water on a ball, and you accept that's a dishonest question. I'm saying to you that what you are asking for is what we live in. All right. Now, this isn't, I'm not just saying, we live in it and it's a fairy tale and nobody can experience it. Anybody can go up, to the top of a mountain, take a bag of crisps in your hand, and we can see the pressure gradient. We know that we have a pressure gradient pulling down. We live in a pressure gradient, right? We live in that. That is what you're looking for. So you can keep saying, show me the gas being pulled down. Show me the gas being pulled down. Show me and you can do what I predicted would happen at the very beginning of this debate. Is that you just repeat the same question over and over. Yeah, because I've told you a million times that's what we're living in. So if my answer isn't good enough, you have to move the conversation on and tell me why it's not good enough.
Okay, it's not good enough.
If you don't like the answer, tell me why.
It's because it's a reification fallacy, isn't it? You're reifying it by just saying, "Look, there's the gradient. There's a space. There, we're living in it. Don't need to demonstrate.
So
don't need to prove that. Don't need to prove
if
whether
somebody
it's
said, look,
physics
that's
or
like
not.
saying, if somebody said Christmas trees aren't real, show me a Christmas tree, and I show you a Christmas tree, and then you say, oh, that's a reification fallacy because you're showing me a Christmas tree. You've asked for evidence of a pressure gradient, gas having this, and you've admitted yourself. Let's just rewind and remember what you've conceded.
Some things
I'll come back to you in a second. I'll give you a couple minutes in a second, I promise. But you've conceded that there is a downward acceleration. You've conceded that the Earth can be a globe. You've conceded that gas has weight. You've conceded that water can be held to the surface of a globe, and none of that's
I've never conceded that.
Why? Well, you did because we talked about solids and liquids. But anyway, anyone can watch.
Yeah.
So, given that you've conceded that, and you've conceded that we have this pressure gradient which shows gas being pulled down, when you say show me a pressure gradient, and I'm saying you are living in one here now, I don't understand why that isn't good enough. You're not articulating why it's not good enough. What you're doing is you're repeating the question. We must have a container. We must have a container. You're not going for. So can you just take it forward?
Because you cannot demonstrate it outside of pointing at it. All you can do is point at the sky and point at the atmosphere outside and say, there it is, rather than actually showing us that this doesn't defy physics in a laboratory and demonstrating it using centrifugal forces, a vacuum, and recreating your model, and give us a little demonstration to show that this doesn't violate the second law of thermodynamics.
Can I just ask you, because there are people in the chat that will be watching this, can you listen back after this debate to what you just said? Because you have been shown, you're saying it's got to be in a lab. Get your own, barometer, get your own whatever, however you want to measure pressure. Go outside, do science outside, measure the pressure differences. You've measured it, and then wind back and listen to what you've just said. All right? And I'm not trying to be mean to you, but please listen back to what you just said, because that is exactly like you saying, Christmas trees don't exist. And me showing you a Christmas tree and you saying, yeah, well, you've got to get that Christmas tree, stick it in a centrifuge, spin it around, and then prove to us that it's not, a pile of dog shit. Like, your argument is so confusing. I just don't understand it. What is it you're looking for?
Some things require an easy explanation, but other things, we need to be more thorough. Now, whether everything is what they say it is, we can't confirm any of this. You can't show me anything that we can do here on Earth to prove that gas can be exposed to a vacuum and not rush out, especially when you've got the Earth spinning, putting centrifugal forces into the molecules and the energy from the sun exciting the particles. And yet they go up into the atmosphere, but then they don't escape the gravitational pull because it eventually pulls them back. And even though that is always at play in the first place, so every gas, it's just this is the crunch time. The actual explanation is that you can't demonstrate it outside of reifying it by pointing outside. You can't.
And I think the answer is that when somebody shows that you are studying it and is showing you it's there and you can measure it for yourself, if you then say you can't demonstrate it, this is the example we were talking about before of, I don't know, have you been brainwashed almost by these quote mining from people like Sleeping Warrior and Quantum Eraser? If you are studying it, living it, you can measure it yourself, and then you're still saying to somebody, you've got to prove it by stuffing something in a centrifuge. Like seriously, and I'm not trying to be mean, because I genuinely think you're a nice guy, and this has been dead civil. All right, this has been dead civil, and I don't want to fall out. But listen to what you are saying. Right, you've conceded there's a downward acceleration. You've conceded that gas has weight. You've conceded that the Earth could be a globe. You've conceded the downward acceleration affects solids and liquids. So we talked about that being no problem for the ocean sticking to the Earth. You've conceded there's an atmospheric pressure gradient, but then you are telling me, show me how to measure this pressure gradient. Like
you've muddied the waters, you've put words in my mouth, you've misunderstood things I've said, and you haven't shown me it, and you haven't conceded that you can't demonstrate it. You're saying I'm showing you an impossibility rather than just saying, you know what, I can't demonstrate it. It's just it breaks the laws of physics.
So we'll say this just one more time, right? Just what you are asking for is what we see outside. It's what we live in, right? For you to say to me, take a box, right? Unless you want me to fill it like sulfur hexafluoride and choose deliberately dense gases, which we can do, but then you go, oh, that's just a deliberately dense guys. So we can do that with specific gases, but you're talking about air. So I'm trying to be honest and not bringing ultra dense gases, right? What you're saying to me is, can you take a box, fill it with air, so it will behave in a way down here that defies what we understand gravity to be? And you want me to try and defy what gravity is to try and prove to you that gravity exists? Right. And the fact that you don't understand that that's what you're asking is the problem. That is the problem.
I've said,
and I think we're almost.
Yeah, again, I said the centrifugal. You can recreate it using centrifugal forces, trying to model it down. And I've also said you've already got the world to use. And if you can't demonstrate it in this world, the best thing to say is that there's no way for me to get a vacuum and to demonstrate gas being held down to the surface. I just can't do it because gas will always fill the available space and rendering it from being a vacuum. Because gases are just attracted to the space, aren't they? When you think about any balloon popping where there's space for it to expand, it will always expand. And there's no energy going into it. It just that's what gases do. They just like to go everywhere.
Well, we do finish it now. We'll have to come back and do this where we present evidence. But we can sum up a little bit here. I know it's gone past 9, but essentially, what you need to do for the next debate is you need to come back and you need. Well, no, I'm going to ask you this question now. Now.
Yeah.
What does the current science, the current understanding of gravity, say will happen to gas if I put it in a box here? What does the current understanding of gravity and all the heliocentric science say will happen if I put gas in a box in front of me? What does it say?
Fuck knows. Do nothing to it. Probably give it a gradient. Maybe we'll get a gradient in a box probably because it would put it down. And
so there you go. That's so you've answered your own question. Then
that's what Bell would say, but it's not. I understand. That's what I mean. I understand all the arguments. I've been believing in the heliocentric model my whole life, but now I'm not so sure. That's the point. I can understand all the arguments.
Let me just rephrase it one more time. You get a box, you fill it with gas, right? Yeah. The current heliocentric science, all the science we know, right, that's linked into space and the Earth being a globe and everything, you put the gas in that box. What does that science say will happen to that gas? Does that science say at sea level, right, pressures and temperatures, it will collapse down to the bottom? Or does all the science that backs the Earth being a globe say it will fill that container at those temperatures and pressures? Which one of those two does it say?
I say the second one.
Right. But what you're asking me to do is take a box, right, and then break all the laws of science that we know so it behaves differently. And because I can't break all the law of science that we know, you are somehow claiming that means gravity can't be proven. It's a really confused argument. Next time we meet, I want to think about that last question.
You're not even understanding what my position, because you're trying to say whether I'm proving gravity or not. I'm just proving. I don't want to prove if gas is being pulled down by this force, not whether the force exists or not. You know what I mean?
Even if we know that is because we can see the. Are you saying that a pressure gradient isn't? You actually said before that we've got a pressure gradient. So if we've got this pressure gradient, are you saying that we have one and it's not due to gas being pulled down?
I'm saying it's not exclusive to a globe model. I'm saying and it's not exclusive to a container either. I mean, containers can also have gradients. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not exclusive to the heliocentric model that they're claiming.
Well, if you said that at the beginning, we wouldn't have been arguing about it for 20 minutes because
I think I did.
If you said at the beginning, listen, we've got a pressure gradient, but we could have a pressure gradient on other shapes of the planet. We could have gone there. We spent the last half hour talking about the existence of a pressure gradient.
I did say that to you. I did actually say that, and I feel like there's sometimes a little bit of points being missed. But I will have to come more prepared, and we'll have to go a good few hours, and I'll bring some.
We'll do it again.
Yeah,
all right. But next time, I'm going to remind you that you've admitted that the Earth could be a globe. I like my concessions, right? You've conceded it could be a globe. You've conceded gas has weight. You've conceded the oceans could be held to the ground. Listen, let's get it sorted for another time because there's loads of evidence I wanted to show. But just the debate, obviously, because we started late, ended up a bit weird.
Yeah.
I'll let you have the last word. Go
on. Last word. Yeah, I guess it just comes down to like Catz is saying, you can't demonstrate it because it would break the laws of physics, how we understand the way gravity works, which, he's conflating it with the idea of a ball and pouring water on a ball, and people go, look, when a lot of fat earthers go, oh, look, water to a ball, don't stick to a ball. It's a totally misunderstanding of the actual, what the heliocentric model's claiming. And I get that disconnection, that it may sound as if I'm also doing the same thing. But I think my situation's different compared to people when they're pouring water on a ball. I think they're just trying to show you that it doesn't, it's a surface and that, and gravity doesn't work that way. And especially with the ball spinning, I understand these are straw man ideas of the heliocentric model. But all I just want to see is what I do know is there is no way to demonstrate gas being pulled down, by gravity, really, and until I see that, I think that's going to be one of the reasons why I always think that maybe space isn't what they say it is, and it could be something else.
Right. Well, next time we come, just get the question right in your head to start with. Are you going to ask for evidence of gas being pulled down, or are you going to be asking for evidence of gravity? Because my answer next time, just to save all this, is if you're asking for evidence of gas being pulled down, then we have our pressure gradient, and that's what we see, that's what we live in. That would be the answer, right? And we could go around in circles. If you're asking for evidence of gravity, then let's bring, I've got a lot here for you on that, and we'll talk about gravity. So maybe next time we move on to that. Should we just schedule the next debate we do about gravity?
We can start anytime you're ready. But I don't think gravity is my argument, though, because even if it does pull, like even if that force that pulls things down, like water and solids or whatever, it's just about whether it pulls down the gas molecules and whether things are working the way that we've been taught. Because if we try to demonstrate that we try to demonstrate that any other way, it just can't be demonstrated. And I think we can talk about whether gravity is real or not, but is gravity pulling down gas the way that we all think that everyone's proposing it to be doing? I think that's what I need answering.
Right. Okay. Right. We'll do that next time. I'll pass you back to Creaky.
Yeah, thank you again, Brooomie. You've been a gentleman, exactly the same as you were last time, and I've resisted the urge to butt in this time, which is why everybody seems to think in the side chat that I was nodding off. I was listening and paying attention to the side chat. But yeah, shoot us an email again, mate, and we'll get you back on as soon as we can, because I think you and Catz have got a lot more to discuss.
I can't wait. Yeah, I should bring some evidence. We don't want to go through the Black Swan. I want to go through other things as well. They've been interesting, man. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Even though that as well, I'm against that. To be honest, I don't think we evolved. So we can hit in a lot of topics. Hopefully, we'll get into more of it next time.
We'll get it structured. Next time, you bring 2 topics, I'll bring 2 topics, and then we will just focus purely and simply for a limited time, a set amount of time on those 2 topics, so we get through all 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Get that structured. Yeah. Sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, drop us an email. But before you go, just because I'm a dick, I am going to point out that you did concede that the Earth could be a globe. I'm going to point that out just because I'm a dick. But
it really could be. I don't know. It could be.
All right. All right, Creaky, over to you, mate.
Right, thank you, Tommy. Thank you to everybody that super chatted. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation tonight with the super chats, obviously, because we did start a little bit later than we'd planned. But thank you to everybody who has super chatted, and thank you to Tommy, Brooomie, however we are meant to refer to you, but your name's on the screen, so
yeah, Tommy Edge.
I don't think it's a secret, is it?
I don't really care, to be honest. Like, fuck him.
Good man. And we will see you all next time.
Yeah, but
so, unless Catz has got anything to say, we are out there.
Bye.
Live long and prosper.
Cheers, Tommy.